Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Today I'm catching up with two good friends, George and Bex from the Antarctic Fire Angels. This is the story of two female firefighters who skied to the South Pole starting November 2023 to inspire women and girls to achieve their ambitions. Now, the Antarctic Fire Angels have gone through many ups and downs, which we're going to go into today in the episode, around the prep, the training, the teamwork, the organisation, the fundraising, so many aspects of it. We actually had them on 3 years ago. So episode 57, January 2021. Go and check that out if you want some background and some context. And just to hear, as well as you're going through this episode, the kind of difference in expectations and where the difficult bits lied and what the surprises were. If this is the first time you've ever heard of it, the Antarctic Fire Angels was born at Women in the Fire Service training and development event in 2019. There was a keynote speaker there, Sophie Montange from Army's Ice Maiden team, that said, "We wanted to show women what women are capable of." And that statement, along with Sophie's infectious passion, was the inspiration behind the whole expedition which became the Antarctic Fire Angels. It originally started as a big team of female firefighters to cross Antarctica to inspire women and girls to achieve their ambitions. Shortly after that, by November 2019, the team went live and the journey was snowballing from there onwards, if you excuse the pun. So in my conversation today, we're catching up with Georgina Gilbert. Georgina is the co-founder in the Antarctic Fire Angels. She's a team leader from Wales. She's been a firefighter for around 20 years and she currently serves with South Wales Fire and Rescue Service. She is an ambassador for gender equality and has an ambition to see more women striving to do whatever job they want to do in life, and also ensuring she is visible as a role model for young women wanting to embark on a career that doesn't fit society's stereotypes. She herself has done a whole bunch of high-level competition representing GB in triathlons. She scales mountains in her spare time, and she's done a bunch of other cool stuff. She was also recently nominated for the most influential LGBT and individual in the fire service by the Excellent in Fire and Emergency Awards. Alongside Georgina, we've of course got Rebecca Openshaw-Rowe, who herself has an incredible career in international sport, typically working in male-dominated environments, such as rowing. She rowed for Team GB, and she also competed in the Rugby World Cup and Six Nations for Wales. And she has won numerous world championships in surf lifesaving as well. And she's even broken world records in it. However, in 2017, her sporting career was cut short due to multiple ligament rupture in her knee. I can sympathise. She was playing for the Harlequins at the time, and at age 37, she became a firefighter. So a whole different shift and transition for her as well. These two incredible women, I'm privileged to be able to call friends. We see each other at various events, and it's just inspiring when we talk about that value of association to put yourself around individuals who are getting it done, who walk the walk, not just talk the talk. We all know someone that talks the talk, right? Well, these women have not just had to talk the talk for nearly 4 years now. They have been quite literally walking the walk, the training, the organising, the resiliency, the mindset. Today we cover things on mental endurance, grit, determination, teamwork, setbacks, many setbacks, emotional, relational, physical. We talk about injuries, we talk about stress, anxiety, overwhelm, the mental cognitive load of doing something like this. It's huge. And we're going to talk about success and achievement as well. Together they skied over 1,230 kilometers from West Antarctica to the South Pole. They did it completely unassisted and unsupported, pulling 85 kilogram plus sleds. It really is just a once-in-a-lifetime, mind-shattering achievement. And they did it all in aid of the firefighters charity as well, raising a lot of money for a lot of great people, many of which we benefit from ourselves as operational firefighters and retired firefighters and extended members of those families. And you can do your bit. You can still help. You can still support. If you look in the links below this, you have your own ability to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. You can put your money where your mouth is. You can support. You can donate. There's a Just Giving page still open, trying to raise £10,000 to raise some more funds for a well-deserved organisation, the Firefighters Charity. So that's more than enough from me. Please make sure you drop in the links. Go and find out more about the Antarctic Fire Angels. They are going to be speaking at a whole bunch of events this year. They are going to be at Women in the Fire Service this year, and I will be there with them. Front row, cheering them on, supporting them, and having a big hug. So I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you feel inspired. I hope you feel ambitious. I hope there is many young women and also everyone, who will take an incredible amount of inspiration from doing something like this. And maybe you have your own South Pole to achieve. Maybe you have your own ambitious expedition that you can take some motivation from this. You can take some inspiration. And also you can reach out to them, get some tips. So without further ado, please welcome back to the podcast on their victorious return, George and Bex. Are either of you aware of Angela Duckworth? Do you know who that is?
No.
Oh, so I'm going to send you a link after this. Angela Duckworth has got a great book. She's got a great TED talk called Grit, and it's about mental endurance and sort of staying the course. And she writes about the extraordinary success about long-term goals, and the achievement is the product of talent and effort. The latter of the function, the intensity, direction, and duration of one's exertions towards a long-term goal. And this was something that was ringing alarm bells in my head when I was thinking about us having a chat today, because yours feels like it's been a form of Olympics, like the sheer mental endurance it takes to do this. And I probably even remember talking about this the first time we spoke. What have you learnt about doing something for such a long period of time? Because it's the whole analogy that, motivation doesn't work and willpower doesn't work. It's almost that sense of purpose to be doing something like this and staying the course, because there's been so many members in and out and involved and not involved, and it's been such a mental endurance. What have you learned from that, George?
Two things: patience and tolerance.
So
Yeah, and patience with yourself, and because I struggle with that, I'm very impatient with myself. I like to be very uber efficient with things, even the way that I move around the house. You know what I mean? Like taking things up and down the stairs and stuff. And tolerance for myself, for my own mood and tempers, and tolerance for that. Basically, other people's stuff is just as important as my stuff. So, so selfishly, probably 4 or 5 years ago, before the expedition, quite self-centered. I'd be, looking at my own stuff and thinking my own stuff was really important, which it is. Everybody's stuff is important, but other people's stuff is just as important as yours when you are attempting to function as a team to basically keep each other alive. And that was the end product, to get each other through the expedition safely, and not come back with missing fingers and toes and other appendages.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together. It reminds me of, there's a great quote that says you can go faster alone and further together. But I suppose maybe Bex, is it a different framework for you? Because again, you come from high-level elite sport, but it's a team sport as well. So what's been your sort of, because that's some amazing self-awareness, George. Thank you for kicking us off with that. That was actually pretty awesome. But what sort of framework do you look at it through, Bex, and what have you take from it?
So I actually likened it to an Olympic cycle. I never reached the Olympics. It was my lifelong goal, but I trained during an Olympic cycle. So I'd always thought of this project as that kind of thing, in the way you had to be, you had to keep that focus. You were taking the knockbacks, which we had, a hell of a lot of knockbacks over the 4 years, but you had to keep that focus on that end goal, which we always did. And I think that's how we ultimately achieved that end goal, because we always had that one eye on the end goal. But we had to have small goals along the way, and they were things like getting the team out to training venues in Norway and Sweden and completing those bits of training,
because they were massive in themselves, because we were so new to all of it. So we kind of ticked those off, and that helped us, keep our focus, keep the motivation, because I think that was a huge thing for us, was how do you keep yourself motivated for that length of time, especially when we were receiving so many knockbacks, in terms of, the team, obviously, we started with 6, we ended with 2. So that was a huge factor. Also, fundraising, that was probably, quite frankly, the worst and the hardest thing that we had to do. And the amount of knockbacks we had, 9 out of 10 times it would be no's.
Oh, that's a good metric. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm.
I imagine it probably wasn't even that good.
No, probably
Like
wasn't actually. Yeah,
getting used to people
yeah,
saying, "Who are you?" No, and
yeah.
then maybe having the humility as things got close to the end, where they're like, "Oh, we'd like to be involved," and you're like, "Where were you 3 years ago?" I remember asking you.
Oh God, yeah. That is. You hit the nail on the head there. That is exactly it. Exactly it.
I
Um,
love that.
Yeah, so I suppose coming from my sporting background, I was kind of a bit more prepared, maybe, with the tools to deal with that 4 years cycle almost. And then I hope that I hope that because I'd had some experience with it, that it kind of came across to the rest of the team, and I was able to keep that motivation going when times were tough.
I think something you mentioned there, or that you're alluding to, that sort of macro meso cycle style
Hmm.
of training and knowing when you need to push, when you need to, because you can't just sprint from the get go. And I wonder, we're not going to get into other people's stories, but the different challenges that each member of the team faced. You reference them as sort of like knocks. I mean, for you, George, there's the whole sort of, if you get 3 in a row, like the boat's rocking a little bit, and then one of the oars snaps, and then the other one starts floating away, and then all of a sudden a hole springs. As one team drops off another meme, a sponsor says no, and this, that. Was there those, because we say we started at 6 and ended with 2, we will obviously give acknowledgement. There's a few of the other team members still supporting the social media stuff still. Unfortunately, they weren't able to, for their own reasons, make it to the end of it. But for you, George, was there any moments where it was like, wow, there were 3 bullet wounds here, and the sense of, let's just knock it on the head? Why keep pushing through those challenges?
I think for me personally, I think by the time the individuals had dropped out, and they'd withdrawn from the team for their own reasons. There wasn't, everybody wants to know if there was like a fight or an argument or or some sort of like disagreement along the line, and every team member has withdrawn for their own personal reasons, and whether that be physical, job commitments, family commitments, and things like that. So
In the
the knock
space of
but
4 years, people's lives change a lot. A
oh, huge.
lot.
Yeah, huge. And I think because of the reason and the rationale behind them, it made the people that were leaving less seen as a knockback, a more of a progression for their lives. And they can't commit. They just wouldn't be able to commit to the expedition because it's been like a second job for us. And so I think that made it a lot easier and less of a knockback. And it's it's more the fact that you keep going because you've already engaged with people. So our message has always been the same: to inspire future generations, and for people who have ever been told they can't do something because of their gender. So that message has always been the same, and we'd already engaged with these with kids, with youngsters, with young adults, older adults from a very from the get go, really. And so the reason to keep going is really easy, is because we had already engaged with these people and we were continuing to engage with them despite people withdrawing from the team. So you owe it to them as well, and to keep going. So what sort of message does that send out to the youngsters that, okay, so one person, 2 people have left the team. What message does that send out to them? Oh, we're going to quit while we're ahead. We've got a little bit of a message out. Let's leave it over there.
I almost feel like that's the bigger message here for me, because the expedition, I think I had it written down 52 days, I think it took in total, and that's the book bit. For some people that's the sexy bit, but for me, and it's probably the old Muhammad Ali quote, isn't it? Like, it's done in the dungeons, it's done in the darkness. It's what happens when no one's looking. The championship is won long before you step under the lights. That aspect of everything that came before it, and also what I think you're referencing there, and what I hear is that sort of social accountability, putting yourself out there, and then it becomes bigger than you, if that makes sense. But it doesn't take away from the fact that, look, when there's only two of you, if one has a bit of an issue, one starts to struggle in those moments, and I know you girls have done so much planning, prepping, training, but it does. Is vulnerability offensive? I don't know, but I would feel. I nearly did the Atlantic row last year and I couldn't get leave for doing it from work. We were going to do a 4-person row, and some of the 2-person teams, like, if one of you struggles, it can be really difficult. So, and you also all have to take on those roles. I mean, Bex, I remember you girls talking to me about having to do the navigation courses, doing the different training courses, the resiliency stuff, the cold weather exposure. That was originally going to be spread of like subject matter experts amongst 6 people, and then all of a sudden you two are both, okay, who's going to pick this up, who's going to pick that up. That's a lot for 2 people cognitively to take on. And again, as George rightly said, this is not your full-time job, but it's almost become more than your real job,
Yeah. When it ended up, just the 2 of us, and I think we probably had about 3 or 4 months to go till we hopefully were leaving. It was it was difficult, and it did take its toll mentally on us. Definitely on me. Because we were still really struggling with funding, and we had to really go for it to get the money because time was running out. And I know probably within the last month or 2, I definitely my mental health really took a dive. I really struggled to the point where I thought I was going to have a bit of a breakdown, just because the trying to get the money, the stress of it all, because we were so close. And like George was saying, we didn't want to let people down, and that was a huge factor for us, is not letting people down. We've done so many talks in schools and to universities and to companies, and people were so excited about us going, and we talked about it for 4 years. It had been our lives for 4 years, so we were desperate not to let people down, and ourselves and our families, because our families have had to put up with us banging on about this for the last 4 years, and not been able to do, missing out on certain things because we've had to prioritize this. So I really felt a huge pressure in those last few months, to make sure that we went. And only being 2 of us, that pressure was, I think, it was bigger.
Can I ask you to unfold that a little bit, just because that I really don't want to jump over that, because how did that manifest itself? You said you felt like you were struggling. In what capacity? Like, what was that feeling to you? Because many people will feel these things, and it's so hard. It's like catching fog to put into words. How do I recognize that I'm struggling with the gravity of what I'm doing at the minute?
I think I was just so overwhelmed, and I'm pretty strong mentally. I don't really struggle very often. I'm just quite lucky in that way. But I just felt so overwhelmed, almost to the point where I just couldn't focus on one thing. I just felt like everything was caving in on me, and I didn't know, what to prioritize, what to focus on. And I just, it's difficult to put into words how I felt, but it just really, I'd not really felt like that before. Just the overwhelming feeling of trying to do something, and the frustration as well, I think, of not being able to achieve. So to be able to get that funding for us to go, and the constant knockbacks, I think. And I remember saying to Kirsty, my wife, I was like, I feel like I'm like kind of like losing it. I just don't feel right. And it was just, it was just absolutely consumed me, this worry and stress. And I couldn't think of anything else. During the day, at night, I would struggle to sleep. I'd be awake. George will know I was awake, texting George or sending her links or researching companies, on LinkedIn to really late in the night. So I was struggling with my sleep, and it was just, I think it got to like a bit of a breaking point where I think I'd said to George, like I'm really feeling really overwhelmed. I'm really struggling, like mentally with it all. And so she kind of took a little bit of the stress off me. And I think I'm not really sure what the point was where I kind of just sort of felt a little bit better. But I don't know if it's because we got some money or George took a bit of stress off me. I don't know, or maybe just talking about it. I'm not sure.
In other news, this episode is brought to you in partnership with MSA Safety. Today we have them to thank for the improved firefighter safety through connectivity in their brand new connected firefighter system. At the centre of the connected firefighter platform is the MSA M1 SCBA with telemetry. You can view battery life, air pressure and estimated time remaining either independently on the M1 itself or from the Luna connected device screen. Also, still with the air status, alarm information, search status and all of this provided to the incident command for confident decision making during the scene. That integrates straight in with the Luna system, which is a wireless all-in-one device creating an independent search and rescue network, providing edge detection, enhanced personal thermal imaging, while simplifying post-scene reporting and data retention. One of the key parts of the Luna is their FAST system, the Firefighting Assisting Search Technology. This combines directional and distance information with thermal imaging to help find separated teammates and decrease response time. It actually connects you to the other crews in the vicinity for a unified search during the time of mutual aid by instantly notifying the network of Luna devices when there is a downed crew member, allowing for a prompt search and rescue. All of this then plugs into the FireGrid system for cloud-based connectivity, real-time information and data-driven decisions for the incident commander. It enables you to see the exact location of your firefighters on the scene. And it doesn't require you to be sat on the station. The MSA Hub then provides a wireless gateway straight to the cloud, enabling wireless on-scene data for local and remote incident command for additional eyes on the scene. MSA are truly taking massive strides in the future of improved firefighter safety through connectivity. MSA is dedicated to increasing safety in the fire service through technological advancements. Various feature enhancements, new products, partnerships and integrations will provide additional capabilities readily accessible by products, software and services in the brand new MSA Connected Firefighter platform. Now back to the show. So help us, if you can, George, help try and piece together some of the dots there, because obviously the great support from Kirsty and no doubt from your partner as well, George. If there were any tools we could try and pull from that for people that I would say the worst things that have happened to you is the worst things that have happened to you, and equally the same as the biggest thing you've ever tried to attempt is the biggest thing for you. So that feeling of overwhelm will probably be familiar for so many people as we continue these ridiculously busy lives. What were some tools, and I'm not asking you to reflect on what was personally shared with you, George, but like tools that maybe you'd used? I think for me, I look at yourself, George, very very stoic, very disciplined. You seem almost bulletproof at times. I know before we came on here, we did unfortunately speak about Louis passing whilst you were away. But how did you work with Bex? What tools have you used yourself to kind of deal with that film of drowning, overwhelm, and anxiety that I'm sure many people could connect with?
I think sharing the information to start off with. I mean, we were both feeling. I'm also somebody that doesn't struggle with my mental health. Luckily, I'm one of those people. But I mean, until middle of the expedition, which we can talk about later if you want to. That at the moment, let's talk about pre-exped and the stress and anxiety that was around money. You know, there's always stress and anxiety around money, full stop. And bearing in mind that we've been very much self-funded for the last 3 to 4 years with little pockets of money coming in from, philanthropists through business or personal friends and things like that, you know. So that stress has always been there. And I think the accumulation and then the sudden outburst of it, as we get towards the end, to actually get the last few bits of money in, as Bex rightly said, it was incredibly stressful. And I think what I had sort of like... just information from other people that fundraise for expeditions is, and literally 99% of people say those last bits of money will not come in until your foot is on that plane and you're about to take off. And my God, they were right. Honestly, the last bit of money came in literally probably 4 days before we were about to take off. And I just had that in the back of my mind, that it happens all the time. And it's purely down to the fact that people don't believe that you're going to go and do it until you're literally on the plane and they see you. Oh my God, they're about to take off. You know what I mean? And keeping that pressure on with the social media and our message and the pressure going, saying, oh, we're about to leave and starting a countdown and things, and putting these little bits in place, you can, it's about, for me, it's like organizing that in my brain so I can get that out, that message out, and keeping going with the solid message that we've had going for the past 4 years, and having faith in that people were seeing the faith in that, and also sharing the load as well. I remember the text message from Bex saying, I'm feeling overwhelmed, can you take some of this stuff off me? And what happened quite naturally then, I was like, yep, sure, no problem, tell me what you've got, because we were both at it at both ends. And I think what happened quite naturally was is that Bex would find the company and find the person and get the initial reply, and then it was a bit of a tag team, and then I'd move in and close the deal, and then we both closed the deal together. Then when it came to it, so it turned into a bit of a tag team. So we split the job, and that happened in the last few months, really, didn't it? It's yeah.
Reminds me a lot of Nimsday, in his book when he speaks about, I think he'd only got the first 2 peaks funded when he set off, and then was just kind of hopeful that the rest of them, excuse me, would manifest. And that we're talking about Nimsday Purger there, 14 peaks that he did. And again, you've almost got to be audacious enough and naive enough to begin. And then sort of disciplined enough, or maybe belligerent enough to keep going and trust that a little bit of fate, a little bit of manifestation, a little bit karma, maybe. But
there is a lot of fate involved in it. You can control your own fate, but when it comes to philanthropy, you're very much in the hands of other people's generosity. But it's just basically getting that message across, and the belief in they have to believe in you before they're going to hand any money across.
Yes.
And having that continuity, consistency over the last 4 years has brought us to the point where we could close deals on with people and get those final bits of money. So thankfully, it worked out for us as well. There's many people it hasn't worked out for, but it worked out for us. Yeah, continuity is definitely the winner there.
So November 20th, I have in my head. When did we land? You landed on the glacier. Was it November 20th? Take me through that. We're finally going. Bags are packed. People will see the social media posts, and we'll start linking some stuff that people can go over and see the journey, because you did a beautiful job of documenting it all, and I love that we could follow you on the map as well as you were both going. When did we land? It officially started mid to late November, wasn't it?
Yeah, we left the UK on the 10th of November and headed out to Chile. And I think it's almost like we didn't believe we were going until we were actually on that plane. I remember George and I saying that to ourselves until we're on the actual plane.
Oh my God.
And so I think when we started, pushing all of our million bags that we had into the airport and got our tickets, I think that was when we, thought, right, this is really happening now, and we're actually going after 4 years. We couldn't quite believe it, to be honest. We could not quite believe that after all that time we were actually on the plane and we were off. It was just utter relief, I think, for one thing, and obviously excitement. And also like, oh my God, we're actually going, and we'll actually go to the Antarctic on this expedition.
I would have thought like adrenaline fatigue after the first day or two, just the travel of bouncing from high to high to high, not just completely crashing and getting ill from that would be, a thing in itself, I'd have thought.
Yeah, I mean, we had a 30-hour flight to get to Punta Arenas. So it was a long old time, but we were so excited, as you can imagine, and just we were off on this amazing adventure. So it wasn't too bad. And then we spent a week in Chile then preparing all of our gear and food and everything. And then we flew out.
Had you forgot anything?
No, I don't think we had, amazingly.
Crikey, well done.
I know, but it's impressive, isn't it? But I don't think we forgot anything. I don't think so.
If you did, it didn't matter. It obviously didn't stop you, so don't worry about it now.
Yeah, we just thought we'll buy it when we're there.
Yeah. So 30 hours, Chile. Talk to me about the first time you landed and you saw the glacier. Some of the names that you girls were talking about, like Heritage Range, Hercules Inlet. I was like, Jesus, where's this Mordor? I thought it was something like Lord of the Rings. It was just incredible, some of the names they gave to some of this stuff. It must have been quite overwhelming just to see it as well.
Yeah, we landed in Antarctica on the 19th of November, and I mean, just the flight, just taking off from Chile and then flying towards Antarctica. It was a 5-hour flight, and I was glued to the window, waiting to see my first little bit of ice or the continent or something. And I remember looking out the window, and I saw my first like tiny iceberg. I mean, it looked tiny. Obviously, it's probably quite big. And I remember waking George up because she was having a little sleep, going, "George, you need to look now. There's an iceberg." And it was this tiny little speck.
I'm sure there'll be more, darling. I'm sure
Yeah.
there'll be more.
And then as we went on, then suddenly there was a huge, massive icebergs and sea ice, and it was just I remember feeling really emotional. Suddenly seeing Antarctica in this huge landmass, and I just thought, oh my God, we are here. We are in Antarctica. Like, never in my wildest dreams, would I have thought I would get to go to this continent. And it was huge excitement and just emotional as well, really emotional.
That's kind of when you're stepping towards the edge of the plane in my mind, though. Not like it's a jump, but what I mean is you're getting towards the edge of existing within someone else's protection. And what I mean by that is I'm on a plane under someone else's care. I'm then going to get to a camp kind of under someone else's care. We've paid some money for someone to look after us. Talk to me, George, about we're off on our own now. We've started. There's no one else with us. We are heading off, and there seems to be no one around.
Well, it was not weird for us in the sense, but weird for ALE, the company, and Union Glacier as well, because we was heading out on a route that had never been done before. And although we were going in, just to add,
because you're so experienced. I was like, I know what you're saying. I know lots of people have gone that way. I'm thinking left.
Left or right. Well, there's a big hole that way and a big mountain that way. Let's go straight. Yeah. So this route had never been done before. No one had ever skied from Union Glacier, and so it was a bit of an anomaly for the camp itself. So we had we packed all our things and we left we started to go at about we made our way over to this one end of the camp at 1:00. And there were people arriving to clap us out with the camp and take photos and things. We were like, this is a bit surreal. No one else is getting this. And because people get flown to their start points, like the start of Hercules Inlet, the start of the Messner route,
really?
different routes that ALE do, famous routes. And basically it all came about because we couldn't afford the flight to Hercules Inlet. So
so we'll just walk the rest.
Yeah, we'll just walk
obviously.
We'll ski it. Yeah, we'll do it. And so Bex came up with the idea that our handler, basically in the UK, Steve Jones, Bex said, why can't we ski from Union Glacier? Why has no one done that before? And he said, all right, I'm going to have to go to the partners to discuss that. It's an American company and things. And so a few weeks later, he came back and said, so this is the price, and you can ski from Union Glacier down to Constellation Inlet. Constellation Inlet is a route they've been looking at. It's never been done before. And he said, why don't you consider that? So we were like, yep, do a route, never been done before. Why not? It's fine. And so we
was there no kind of what if though? Because like if no one's done that before. And my terminology is going to be horrendous, but like, what if there is some great sodding hole? What if there is just the way that ice is formulated? No one's been that way. You're just looking through a satellite and going, yeah, I think you'll be fine that way. I've never been myself, but yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But everything, so ALE, they don't want people falling down a hole necessarily, and they want success, and
Yes.
they don't want anything happening. So basically every route that they do, it's not only skiing expeditions they do. They also do sort of expeditions in cars and vehicles, and there's a lot of research that goes on there. So they actually leave from they do go out to this outside of the camp in vehicles and stuff, and to do that, they've got ground penetrating radar. So and they do scope out a lot of these routes with this technology. So in terms of a first, it had never been skied before, and it's never been part of an expedition before, an extended expedition. But it had been driven before. But it's all quite highly. I don't want to say choreographed because it sounds like there is no danger in it whatsoever, because there is, because these things, crevasses do open up, they extend, they close up, they come and go, because it's all glacial plates, and they move, and things
Well, to be
appear one
honest,
day.
even though I know you girls are probably, well, you are definitely a bit conditioned to this now, but even if it was just a flat, straight road, which it was not by any stretch of the imagination, it's still in minus 27 degrees and it's a long way and you're carrying a lot of weight. I think it would be very difficult for you to, in any capacity, diminish what you've done. I don't think there's anything you could say that anyone would go, "Oh, that sounded easy then."
Yeah.
But irrespective of the route, well, I mean, what are we covering? Like 22, 25k a day on average? I think I was looking at it.
We started at around sort of 16k because we were so heavy, and then as you get lighter, you get about 1 kilogram lighter every day. So, and as your pulk never feels lighter, because you get lighter and you get more tired. But yeah,
Did
so
you have to
and
put on
then
extra weight in anticipation of losing all that weight?
yeah. So yeah, put on a few extra kilos.
Did you
Yeah,
actually? Did
so
you genuinely have like a goal weight, either of you though? Were you like, I need to? Because this is something that someone said to us about the row. They were like, you'll lose about 3 stone rowing it. It's going to take 40 days. I was like, 3 stone? Jesus, I need to put some
yeah.
more weight on then.
I know you don't believe it, do you? But I mean, I put on 5 kilos and body fat as well. And Bex, I don't know how much you put on. You put on a fair amount as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I put on about 6 kilos, I think, and I ended up losing 14 kilos by the end.
Wow.
Yeah.
So well over a stone and a bit for people that aren't sure on the numbers for that.
Yeah.
Well, that's 2 stones, sorry,
No,
because it's 6.2 kilos a stone. That's 2
yeah,
stone.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, there you go. That's, yeah. Have to get all that Christmas eating in early because you girls didn't get to enjoy Christmas at home either, did you?
No. I'm enjoying eating now, mind.
Yeah, well, you've earned it.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the day I saw Bex, you've frozen hair. I think it was day 1, day 2. And how's your thigh, George? I'll be honest, that looked really spicy. Help us
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
what's going on there, because you worried me for a minute. I thought that was some sort of like infection or like a blood thing you'd had, but
I know it looks like there's. I came across a shark on the glacier somewhere, but yeah, a very rare species. No, basically it's polar thigh, and in the UK it would be probably called a chilblain, but polar thigh is like a chilblain on steroids. So it's caused. There are a number of causes, and they don't really understand it completely. As in who gets it, why they get it, what area of body and stuff. But the most commonplace, it's happens in women because we've got higher body fat on our thighs. So if that's the baseline for every polar thigh, not every woman gets it. Bex didn't get to have anything. I got I got it all for both of us, unfortunately. But it is basically, yeah. It's basically a lack of circulation in the fatty tissue, and it starts to die. And it starts as a bruise, and as soon as you see that little bit of bruise, you start whacking some steroid cream on. And the steroid cream that the expedition doctors give you it's like 4 times the strength as what we get over the counter in this country and stuff. So you start whacking that on, and it basically slows it, delays it, and you have to keep the area as warm as you can when you're
that's why
traveling.
it's so strange that it's the thigh, because that you're not wearing shorts. Do you know what I mean? You'd have thought that bit stays fairly
Yeah, it's
warm
fatty
anyway, and
tissue.
your legs are doing the work, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not muscle, so it's basically fatty tissue. So it just gets it's your body decides that it doesn't need it. It's surplus requirement, and it's cold, so it's like, no, I'm going to get rid of it. So, and basically there is no stopping it. You can only ever slow it down, and the only way to stop it is basically return to your home country where it's warmer. That's it. So I'm obviously here now. So
How is it now?
and yeah, it's okay. It's actually a lot of it's healed really really nicely. The bruising is still there and stuff, so I've got to be careful because as soon as it gets cold again, it will start all over again. Um, yeah, so I've got to be super super careful. There's one particular area of it that's quite tender, but of course, it's
It did look
it's
like
kind
it
of,
broke the skin in one part. Yeah.
yeah, it's surface skin, and basically what happens is it basically gets rid of all the nerve endings, and so you don't feel it. That, at its worst, you don't feel it, which is why it's quite dangerous. Because it'll just keep continuing to get deeper and deeper and bigger and bigger. So all these bruises basically eventually join up, and you can end up with a huge patch of it if you're not careful. But we managed it because there's areas on me that I couldn't see. So Bex was checking my thighs basically every night, and basically as soon as the skin starts to crack, you put a dressing on it called Granuflex, and then that's like a wet dressing basically. It keeps it moist, and that stays. You tape that on, and that stays on until it either falls off or you get to a doctor. So the only thing that they're particularly worried about. So we had a medic Monday, every Monday, so we'd call in, and the only thing they're worried about, they basically ask you, have you got a temperature? Are you feeling okay? And if you don't have a temperature and you're feeling okay, then you're happy to continue with what the condition that you have, then you carry on. So, and that's what an expedition
Was there
doctor
any
does.
circumstance where you were realistically going to say no?
No, not really. I mean,
Is that your arm hanging off in the background there, George? No, no,
yeah,
that's something else. That's fine.
yeah, it's an optical illusion. It's fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, not really, because I mean, if I got pulled off the ice, it would have meant that Bex would have get pulled off the ice
Exactly.
on it.
Yeah.
No, because you didn't qualify for a solo, and to go from two people to one, you've got to carry all that extra equipment, and we hadn't packed for that, so for a solo, full stop. So yeah, so I think Bex managed to disguise her reaction to it every night. So she checked my thighs round the back like every night. Bless her, she did try to disguise her reaction to it, so it wouldn't worry me. But I knew that I knew that it was getting. I mean, I could feel it. I knew it was getting bad, and it actually feels much worse now. It's now that I'm home because it's
Yeah.
healing,
Now the
and all those
nerves are
nerve
coming back. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'll be sat here. It'll be fine, and then next thing it feels like somebody's like constantly stabbing my leg with a with something, like as the nerve endings are coming back, kind of thing. Yeah. So you see me adjusting my seat quite a lot
You're
because
okay.
it's literally like it. Yeah.
The dog's jumping up on you and stuff like that.
I know. Well, I've got a couple of patches on my inner thigh, and she did catch it with a little pinny claws earlier. So, but I've got I'm a patchwork quilt of dressings. So yeah,
Nice. Bex, when I was
yeah.
looking at some of the videos and stuff, you did some really strong big marches, especially when you were doing some of the deep stuff. I think George was doing a little bit of navving in the back. Maybe you were like power horsing it out the front. Talk to me about some of the surprises. What were the unknowns? What did a normal day look like for you both when you were out there? And what was it like being out there in front, just powering across and probably not being able to have any music in your ears, just kind of being present?
So a normal day for us was waking up at 6:30 every morning, and then obviously we'd eat breakfast, prep everything, get ready, get out the tent, and we aim to be out of the tent, and on our skis going by 9 o'clock.
Did you maintain an appetite all right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I know you would have been really hungry, but I didn't know if like the stuff you'd chosen was what you like when you're out there.
Yeah, I think the thing we stress, so during the day we'd ski for 2 hours, and then we'd have sort of a 10-15 minute break where we'd eat the snacks we had, and we had a lot of cheese and salami, and I think that was probably the biggest thing we struggled to eat was the cheese and salami. Definitely for me, frozen cheese is not very nice. Yeah, so I definitely struggled to eat that because it just wasn't nice, but we had to, that was the only food we had, and it was, it's really fatty based,
calorie dense.
Yeah, exactly. So we'd have a break, and then we'd swap over the lead every 2 hours, and we continued that then for at least 10 hours, if not longer. And I think we'd kind of we'd had a slow start at the beginning of the expedition, especially the second week. We had a lot of bad weather. We had some really steep hills, and obviously we were really still our clocks were still very heavy. So we did have a worry, that are we going to make it in time? Have we got enough food? Are we actually going to make it to the pole in time for the end of the season? And
really?
we were struggling. Yeah, we were really, some days we were only doing 13 kilometers, and
well, I was saying one of the days you accidentally finished a few hours earlier.
Yeah, that was my fault. Yeah.
Oh, you must have been annoyed though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we were both in the tent and relaxing that I suddenly looked at my
Yeah.
watch. I was like, oh
Supposed
God.
to still be walking.
Yeah. We missed 3 hours. I think it was 3 or 4 hours. I was like,
Oh, it's
oh no.
annoying.
Yeah, that's totally my fault. So yeah, at the beginning we were supposed we were just getting into the routine and life on the ice. And yeah, so and then I think George and myself both had some bad news while we were out there from home, and that kind of probably sort of gave us a bit of a rocket. Not that we were in a rush to finish the expedition, but kind of put a bit of, oh, let's get this done kind of thing now. So after that we started to, I think naturally with the pots being lighter, the mileage started to go up anyway. And then we started to decide, let's try and hit sort of 25 kilometers a day, depending, whatever, however long it takes. And then we were hitting that easy, and then we were like, oh, let's just push it a little bit more. And then suddenly we were hitting 28 kilometers. And we kind of then just thought, you know what, let's just continue with 28k, regardless of if it takes us 10 hours or 11 and a half, which it was some days. And that's what we did then, basically, probably for the last couple of weeks, if not longer, really, till the end of the expedition.
Were there any evenings where you felt like you'd walked for too long, if you know what I mean? Like where you're like, it's really dark now. We should have started setting up half an hour ago. Because it must be a hard decision as to when to stop.
We certainly would feel wrecked by the end of the day, yeah. And there were certain days, the days where it was taking us over 11 hours to do the distance, because obviously we're on our feet for longer. And that was, we would finish absolutely shattered, just we'd be like kind of almost like falling around, walking back and, getting the tent set up and everything. And we'd be like, oh God, I'm absolutely shattered today. And
they're the dangerous moments, let's not like, operational crews who've had a hard whatever. This is, hang on a minute, if I fall over and don't pay attention to what I'm doing, this could go very bad very quick.
Yeah, 100%.
Today's podcast is powered by our partner Lifelines and their revolutionary approach to functional hydration. Just like in firefighting, water is essential for body function, but studies show more than 80% of firefighters are dehydrated. A 25-year study findings from the National Institute of Health showed poor hydration to be linked to early aging and chronic disease, and even mild dehydration results in significant negative impact outcomes including headaches, exhaustion, rapid pulse, irritability, and poor cognitive function. A study conducted by Yale University showed that participants who were just 1% dehydrated had a 12% increase in errors when performing tasks that required cognitive flexibility. In addition, dehydration is shown to worsen mood and attitude, contribute to confusion and poor decision making, and negatively affect memory and judgment. In other words, you really don't want your incident commander, firefighter, or for that matter any first responder on a critical scene to be even slightly dehydrated. Mild dehydration occurs when a person is just 1.5% dehydrated, a condition that does not even trigger the thirst response in most people. So just imagine how quickly a firefighter or any first responder can and does become dehydrated in their day-to-day duties, which is why I address my hydration first thing every day with Lifelines. Go into the notes for this episode and specifically check out Lifelines Hydro Fuel and Hydro OG by clicking in the notes for the podcast for a clean energy solution designed for those who demand more from their day. Now back to the show.
It was a bit testament to our training that we'd done previously with routines and putting the tent up, and we were so well drilled.
Yeah.
I've got to say, George and I were so well drilled with putting the tent up that was never an issue. Even when we were at our absolute most exhausted, we were just, it was such a natural routine for us.
Were those moments quiet? Were they like, did anybody get the fuckums at any point?
Oh, I mean, George and I, we constantly had we call ourselves Snip and Snippy. We were constantly having to snip at each other. I'd say pretty much every day, we'd have a little go at each other about something.
Doing that again, are you? The thing we've just spoke about for the last 3 weeks, you're going to do that again, are you?
Yeah. So,
that's fine. If you want to be wrong, I mean, if you want to do it wrong, do it wrong.
Honestly, were you there?
I love it. I want to be super respectful of your time because I know we're on a cap today. I wanted to actually ask you about, because there's the ITV documentary, the Just Giving page is still available to people. We'll put the links in underneath it. But I wanted to ask you about something. Again, I was reading recently about. It takes us back, Bex, to what we were speaking about earlier about the Olympics. It's this post-Olympic blues thing that I read about the other day, and it's a super important thing because I think professional athletes have this, astronauts have this, and that's not pretending like you've been to the moon, but you have achieved something most people will probably never do. And this is actually a super important moment now to think about that how do we navigate back down? It's a bit like climbing up a tree. Getting up, it's easier. Navigating back down from this mental high is something to genuinely think about. You know, that confusion, potential depression, loss of purpose, negative self-worth, what's next? All of these things are hopefully never going to visit you. But like, have you had any conversation about that? Has that been in your minds at all? There's so much great stuff still to come, because you're going to go around the country, if not the world, telling your story and inspiring thousands of people. But there's kind of like, has anybody had that what's next? It's such early days, I know, but...
Well, just going on your point there about the moon, Antarctica was a little bit like the moon, if I'm honest.
I'll bet it was. Yeah.
It was like being on a different planet, honestly. The place is just out of this world. But yeah, a few people have mentioned this like almost hangover that we'll have from the expedition. And also it's probably the last 4 years, because it's been so all-consuming, you know, for both of us, for our lives. And we've been on this absolutely crazy, amazing, tough, savage adventure, and you know, that's so far away from our from real life.
Be so careful not for real life to feel boring, you know, because you both love your partners and you've got great lives, but like, they weren't there. You know, Bex was there with you, George was there with you. It's like, you've been through such an amazing thing with one person, and you don't want to get back to work or back on watch and feel disappointed, because you both have great lives and we're so lucky for all of the things that we have. But it's difficult because you don't want to seem ungrateful, but also you've done such an amazing thing, and you know, it's a hard calibration, I bet.
Yeah, I think it will hit us at some point. I've experienced it slightly from sort of going, you know, with sport and being away for like wheelchair for a while and stuff, and yeah, you do get this lull of being back to reality and kind of a feeling of this, is this it now? You know, is it like what? But yeah, I think I don't know. I think I'm not sure what we're going to do next. The people have asked us that. And
don't do that. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to ask you that. That's not what I'm asking you, because that's a horrible, stupid question.
Yeah.
And we have that thing where we're like, I've just done the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, why is this instant gratification? What's next? Oh, I've just had that. Why? You saved up for 10 years for that house. Now you're saying, what's next? Well, I'm just going to enjoy it for a bit, actually.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly that. I think, you know, we're going to enjoy this now, and the memories and people asking us about it and being able to talk about it, which is great. I think, you know, being able to speak about it and our experiences and what happened, and people being really excited and interested, you know, that will keep us up, you know, on that kind of I don't know, high that we've got from coming off the back of it. But obviously that will fizzle out, you know, in a few months. So
it's important to stay present on where you are now, because I read a great thing again the other day. A guy saving up for years and years to go on a once in a lifetime trip, and then like the second day he was there, he was saying, I really look forward to coming back. And in his mind he had to tell himself, but I'm here now. Why would I look forward to coming back? I'm casting my mind into the future, which is taking me away from the present every time I do that. I'm saying, wouldn't it be great to come back? You're here now. Enjoy it. You know, enjoy exactly. This moment of success that you're in right now is so incredible, and you've overcome so much to sort of do it. And I say I want to be respectful of your time, but you've got a lot going on in these next few months. Talk to us a little bit in the last few minutes about the ITV documentary, where you're going to be speaking, where people can find you, where they can still donate and support. And there's so much we haven't spoken about today. I know there's going to be places people want to learn more.
I think, the ITV documentary, it was meant to be a 30-minute Welsh Lives documentary, but they've just been authorised now to make it a 60-minute documentary on us called Fire and Ice. Yeah, so we're really excited about that, and we found that out a few days ago, actually. So that's super exciting. I know. It's like, I'm not sure I can probably sound really rude to the producers. I mean, because we know them and stuff, but I'm not sure I can actually sit through an hour of me.
I'm not going to try and pretend to compare it, but yeah, I've seen myself on TV programs, and when I listen to myself on the podcast, you're like, oh, just shut up. She's waffling rubbish. But it's because you were there for it. So to you, it seems normal now. To everyone else, it's so inspiring what you've done.
Yeah. So there's that to contend with, and I think Bex it's out on the 13th of Feb, and I think Bex is in work for it. So she's going to
Love
have
it.
to sit through it with her watch.
No, I'm going to try and get that night off, to be honest.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, mind you, I think you've had more than enough leave. Actually, Bex might be the yeah. How long are you gonna How long are you gonna string this one out for? I'm sure one of the senior officers will be like, "That was 3 years ago, Bex. Yeah, stop banging on about it. Can you do some work now?"
Yeah. Yeah. So that's coming out on ITV Wales, and also, but it's going to be on ITVX, so everybody else can watch it as well across the country. And then we've got quite a nice little fundraiser with Saatchi and Saatchi in London, so that would be good.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, so
Lovely
hopefully
photo of you.
it's a friend of mine who owns Good Wash here in Wales and stuff, and they have a close working partnership with Saatchi, so they're organising that for us as well, which would be amazing. So hopefully we'll be able to launch our public speaking career off the back of that, which would be wonderful. We've done it already, but it would be wonderful to sort of really sort of solidify that and everything. As far as the website is concerned, so we'll be making some adjustments to the website because at the moment it's all about the expedition. So we're keeping obviously our core, which is the Antarctic Fire Angels, but we'll be making some adjustments to the website. So if everybody can just bear with us while we sort that out, because neither of us are website designers. So yeah, so we're going to have to work our head around algorithms and stuff like that, which would just be a fate worse than death, I'm pretty sure. And
Where's the best place for people if they still want to donate? Sorry, where could they go for that, Bex?
Still on our website, so if you just on the home page, we've got a donate button. Just click on there, and then it'll take you to our GoFundMe page, and we are still raising money for the firefighters charity. So that will continue to be open now for the next sort of month or two.
I've got that link, so I'll pull that link specifically out the website. If people just scroll down now on their phones and they look underneath, that'll take you straight. And even if it's guys and girls, I think it's a minimum £5, and we're continuing to give little bits and bobs. We'll make a donation straight after this. Please, anything small or big that you've got. And again, we forgot to reference, this all started kind of at WFS. So for anyone that hasn't, doesn't know what that is, you'll have heard it in the introduction because I'll have done a pre-read for this. Hopefully you're both going to be maybe there next year, this year. It'd be great to see you.
Yeah, we are. We're actually speaking at WFS this year. So myself and George are the keynote speakers on the Saturday night. We'll be talking. I think it's the Saturday. We'll be talking all about.
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll have got it. You'll have got it nailed by then. You'll know the best bits. You'll know what works. You'll have done so many talks by then. Girls, is there anything you think we've missed? Is there anything you want to reference? Is there any request you want to ask of our audience in the last couple of minutes? Because I know we need to wrap it up in a sec.
I think the only thing I want to say as well, I know we're looking at the future and past the expedition. I think the only one that we're in the bones of the construction of it is our Fire Angel Foundation. At the moment, we're calling it a foundation, where we're already linked up with the UK Fire Cadets, and they've asked us to be ambassadors for the Fire Cadets as well, which is amazing, and also Guild Guiding. So basically, working with the youth of today, and so the foundation is basically a way to engage with young girls that are there and with Girl Guiding as well, and we give them a snippet of what we've experienced. So working on the lines.
I see you two as the female Bear Grylls. That's what I see you two as. That is a gap that needs to be stepped into, and you two have got the credentials for it now.
Well, I'm not sure Bear's ever been to the South Pole. Not under his own.
Yeah. Yeah, so giving him a bit of a compliment there. He's not earned it, has he?
No.
Pull your finger out.
Yeah, but yeah. So we basically give them a snippet. It's all about self-esteem, self-worth, building confidence in young women, and it's about girls supporting girls, and then they basically evolve into women supporting women. So as women, we tend to self-destruct a little bit and only reach out when we need it, but that support should be there, literally from girls supporting girls, women supporting women. So that's what we're aiming. Our end goal is. So we're taking our time with it. We're going to spend the next year, next good months through the summer setting it up and getting it all ready and correct, and then so we're already associated with the Fire Cadets anyway, so as ambassadors. So we'll get that up and running later on this year, hopefully.
Well done, girls. I wish you absolutely every success with it. I'm going to let you go. I know you've got some more commitments this afternoon, but thanks so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you at Dubai FS.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
The Firefighters podcast was created to recognize, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests, and as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means that we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, tallies, and also access to all of the incredible documents get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders, then please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month, you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on the platform you're listening, and wherever you're around the world, please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.